Welcome back to the Commissioner's Report. I've been talking with Sheriff Grady Judd, and the good numbers, really, that's amazing when you consider all the way back into the 70s, the crime rate at the lowest it's ever been. I talked about people calling 911. We think of calling 911 in an emergency, and we know what happens. You get a hold of an operator, whether it's for an emergency for medical or you need the police or sheriff or whatever you need. But sometimes people are calling 911, they don't mean to, or they change their mind, and they just think if they just hang up, no problem, no one's going to worry. But that's not the case. In fact, it creates a lot of work for the communication center, doesn't it?
It really does. You know, the most important tool that we can have to keep us safe, to protect us, or to come to our aid in the need of an emergency is the cell phone. This is a great tool and a great instrument. But what we've got to remember is that we don't want to use this unless we have a true emergency. And here's what's magic about this telephone. You dial 911, and immediately your county government or city government will send hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment and trained personnel to save your life, to help you in a time of need, to arrest burglars or robbers. But we can't be there at the emergencies we need to be at if we're going to false 911 calls. Do you know last year, because people made a mistake with their phone, we had approximately 66,000 false 911 calls. Of that 66,000, we had to respond to about 44,000 of them. Now think about that. While we're taking up time with that 44,000 false alarms, give or take a few, that's time that we can't dedicate to true emergencies until we find out that that call is not an emergency. So what creates a lot of that? Well, people will dial 911 by mistake and they'll say, oh my gosh, and they hang up.
Shouldn't do that, right?
Shouldn't do that.
Right.
But then we call them back and they go, oh my gosh, they're calling me back, and they won't answer the phone. Or we'll call back and say, are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine, and they sound nervous. Well, we think maybe they're not fine, and we need to talk to them.
Right.
So you can't believe how often they won't talk to us. We say, look, we've got to check it out and make sure you're really safe, that nobody's holding a gun to your head. Some don't cooperate. But that's why we tell everybody, please be so very, very careful. Don't use an app that may be on your phone, so you just push the app and that dials the emergency number, because if you accidentally touch that app, you've automatically dialed 911.
Right. So imagine if I accidentally call 911 and I realize it's an accident, instead of just hanging up and just they'll ignore me, I should just stay on the phone or answer your call back. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and everything will be fine then, right?
We still have to come talk to you.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure nobody's holding a gun to your head.
Right.
But you're not in any trouble.
Right.
And that's why it's a whole lot easier on us. And that way we don't respond in an emergency mode and put our deputies at risk. If you say, look, please, don't tell them not to turn on lights and sirens and put themselves at risk. It was a mistake. I'll meet them someplace. I'm on my way to work. I will pull off the side of the road and wait for the deputy to come there, or the police officer to come there. But the first thing you want to do is assure us that there's no emergency.
Right.
And we can hear in your voice where there's angst and anxiety. And when you say, I've made a mistake, please don't turn on the lights and sirens and risk your life to come here to check on me, but I'll stand by because I know you have to. Okay. Just drive normally, and we'll come there and confirm that there's no real emergency. But most importantly is to be responsible, because the time we're tied up with these false 911s, we can't get to true emergencies.
Right. And I would hate to think that I accidentally called and you were spending time with me in a non-emergency when you could have been helping somebody else.
Absolutely.
Great advice. All right, we only have a few minutes, so I want to take a time to switch gears completely to let you see perhaps a different side of the sheriff. He's actually a very passionate photographer. And we have some photos here that you have taken. You have taken these, I guess most of these photos we're going to see are actually in Polk County, is that what I understand?
That's correct.
These are bald eagles. Now, where in the world did you take this?
This was on Lake Pierce. We were out on a weekend morning floating around on our pontoon boat, and my wife actually spotted them before I did. And here were these two majestic eagles sitting on the top of this tree. And as we floated by, I just snapped a couple of photographs. And it's unbelievable. And that's how I de-stress, because when I'm behind that camera looking at God's beauty and all of the nature, I can't worry about the office. So that's how I de-stress,
right.
Is to go out in nature and enjoy the nature and the photography.
Well, all throughout last month and the month of February, your artwork was on display at the Lake Wells Library, and it's amazing that I think some people probably know this about you, but other people may be surprised with the owls and the ibis and the hummingbirds and all this amazing work. You obviously have an affinity for nature and for birds.
I do. I truly believe that if folks take advantage of the parks that we have in the community. If you've never been to Circle B, if you've never been to our passive parks, you're missing a treat. We have all this beautiful nature, all this wide open spaces that is available, and it's not only available for you. Take your children and enjoy nature and enjoy the community we have in the parks. And guess what? It helps us de-stress. It puts life back in perspective. And I must tell you, I feel closest to God when I'm out in the out in the nature areas taking photographs.
Well, Sheriff, I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your photos, and I think we need to have you come back and talk more about this. I know this is a passion of yours, and I'd like to talk more about that. If you'd like to learn more about them, I encourage you to go to their website, polksheriff.org, where you can learn about all the things they're doing. You can also follow them on Facebook or on Twitter at Polk County Sheriff. So that's a good way to keep in touch. Sheriff, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
I enjoyed the day.
And thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next month for another edition of the Commissioner's Report. Take care, everyone.